We're going to start a little differently tonight. Normally, Vicki will do the first reading, which is from one of the Gospels, and I read the overnight commentary. The Gospel tonight reading is very long. It's the Samaritan woman at the well. So rather than read it all, we're just going to kind of walk through it together. Let's begin with the prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, we all desire to be free from fear, shame, and we desire living water that fills the deep thirst within our souls. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your presence. Thank you for the love that breaks down all fear and melts all shame. And we thank you for the living water that you give us, bubbling up inside our own spirits. Teach us to draw from this water, to drink this living water, to be in communion with you. Amen. So let me start here. As much as we are all different as human beings, we are really more alike than we are different, which is good. And let me just say two challenges that we all experience on an emotional and deeply psychic level. If we stay on the spiritual path long enough, and if we do it honestly, we will come up against, again, two struggles that we all have in common. Fear and shame. Fear and shame. It all goes back to the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve. When they had their fall from consciousness, what did they do? They became afraid, and then they hid from God. Secondly, they became ashamed of their nakedness, and they clothed themselves. And that pattern, that consciousness has been passed on to all of us. And again, if we persevere in the spiritual life, we will sooner or later have to deal with the fear and the shame. The woman in the story tonight, the Samaritan woman, we see the fear and the shame operating in her life. And at a certain level, she represents all of us. And her interaction with Jesus represents the path to freedom and to healing and to transformation. So let's start out. What did it mean to be a Samaritan woman in the time of Jesus? First of all, if you were a woman in the time of Jesus, you had no rights. You weren't even a second-class citizen. You were lower than that. Secondly, if you were a Samaritan woman, there are two strikes against you. Because the Samaritans were considered to be impure. They had mixed lineage. They had some Jewish lineage, but other stuff mixed in. And their religious practices and beliefs were a mixture of Judaism and paganism. So if you were a Jew and you came across a Samaritan person, especially a Samaritan woman, you would see her as being unclean. She would be sort of in the lower caste. And we see the Samaritan woman in the story living this. One of the hallmarks or trademarks of this is we are told that she goes to the well, not in the morning and not in the evening when the women would go to the well when it was cool to get water. She went midday when it was hottest because she was afraid and she was ashamed and she wanted to avoid people. She wanted to avoid the encounter with somebody else who might shame her or trigger her fear. What I'm saying, at some level, she represents all of us. Fearful and hiding in some way. But here comes Jesus. Now you got to remember, Jesus is many things. But he was a pious Jew, in the best sense of it. and he was a rabbi. So if he was a typical pious Jew and a typical rabbi, he would have had nothing to do with this Samaritan woman. There would have been no relationship, there would have been no contact, there would have been no exchange. But Jesus does the unexpected as the divine ones always do. He begins the conversation. He does the unthinkable. He speaks to her. And it's not judgment. It's not shaming. It's not adding to her fear. One of the great sort of yogic musicians in our day and time is a guy named Ram Dass. And Ram Dass went to, I'm going to connect this to Jesus, so stay with me. Ram Dass went to India and he met his guru, Neem Karoli Baba. And he was a real guru, the highest order, great level of consciousness. And then when Ram Dass was in his presence, he felt the divinity, he felt the joy, he felt the grace, he felt the light. And so at some point, Ram Dass said to him, would you teach us to meditate? I want to take this with me. Teach us to meditate. And Neem Karoli Baba just went into silence. He closed his eyes for a long time. And then he opened them and he said, meditate as Jesus meditated. And he closed his eyes again. And after a period of time, a tear rolled down his cheek. And after a period of time, they said, you told us to meditate as Jesus meditated. And a tear rolling down your cheek. Tell us how Jesus meditated. Lost himself in love. He lost himself in love. That's the ultimate meditation. To lose ourselves in love. And that's what Jesus does in this story. He begins the conversation, and he begins it in a very unusual way. He says, give me something to drink. There's levels to this. First of all, you have the Samaritan woman had lost most or all of her dignity. She was shunned even by her own people. And so when Jesus asked her for a drink, what he's saying to her is, I know you don't think much of yourself, but you have a gift to give. You make a difference. Your life has meaning and it has purpose. You have a gift to give. You have God-given dignity. You matter. You make a difference. Give me a drink. I'm thirsty. You see how he's elevating her dignity and her consciousness? He's bringing healing in. The second thing in the Middle East, if you drink with somebody, you're actually forming a bond. You're forming a friendship. You're entering into communion. So the second thing he's trying to do is form a relationship with her. And I want you to get a subtlety. See, most of us, we see other people through our lens. We see other people through our prejudices. Oh, he voted for Trump. Oh, you know what that means. She voted for Hillary. Oh, you know what that means. Oh, he's a Muslim. Oh, he's gay. Oh, he's Jewish. Oh, she's this. Oh, she's a street person. Oh. We never see the person because we're always looking at them through the lens of our prejudice. Jesus doesn't do this. He doesn't see her as a Samaritan woman, the way other people see her. He sees her as a child of God. He reaches in and he sees the dignity. He sees the grace. He sees the potential. He sees the beauty. And so he said, let's have some water together. Let's enter into communion. I don't reduce you to your labels. I don't reduce you to your isms. I don't reduce you to your dysfunction. I don't reduce you to your political persuasion. I want communion with you. I want contact with you. I want to get to know you as you are, not as other people say you are, and not even as you say who you are, because we distort ourselves too. And then the last level of asking for water, water in the biblical sense represents consciousness. So what Jesus is saying to her, give me your consciousness. Give me your mind, and I'll give you living water. Give me your fears. Give me your shame. Give me your unforgiveness. Give me your past. Give me everything that you don't like about yourself. Give them to me. And I'll give you the peace that surpasses all understanding. Give me your mind, and I'll give you the peace that surpasses all understanding. He wants her the water because he wants her consciousness, because he wants to transform her life. I want you to see it's a relationship. We don't think ourselves into freedom. We don't analyze ourselves into enlightenment. We don't technique ourselves into divinity and non-dual consciousness. It's a relationship. It's love. And we surrender to that love. That's how the transformation takes place. Now, what's very interesting about the story is she asked Jesus a number of questions. Hey, simpleton, paraphrasing a little bit. Simpleton, you don't have a cup. You don't have this. How are you going to do this? I want to give an important interpretation of that. Because this has to do with how we deal with God and how we deal with the Guru. She isn't playing holy games. She isn't trying to be pious. She is being transparent to her because Jesus was transparent first. But she's responding with transparency. She's asking honest questions. She doesn't get it. She doesn't understand it. She doesn't understand who he is. She doesn't understand what he's offering. And so she's being honest and transparent. See, a lot of times we fall into the game of thinking that we have to be pious with God. God doesn't need our piety. God needs our transparency. God needs our realness. God needs our humanness. God needs our nakedness. There's a wonderful story with Yogananda and his disciple Kriyananda. Kriyananda was a direct disciple. He was a monk. And Kriyananda was always trying to behave properly. He was always trying to be pious. And Yogananda would say to him, relax, loosen up. And stop trying to be so holy. It's not how it works. And Kriyananda didn't listen. So Kriyananda says one day they're sitting at the table, and Yogananda gets his devilish look on his face. And from inside his orange ochre robe, he pulls out a squirt gun. And he starts squirting Kriyananda. And then he gives Kriyananda a squirt gun, and they have a squirt gun war. You see, he was just trying to get him to be human, to be real, to be transparent, because that's where the communion takes place. That's where we touch. I'm going to share one more story. I shared this on Saturday from Vicky's mom, but it's another way of capturing it. Vicky grew up in a very wonderful Italian-American family, and her mother really was like a saint. When she died, the church was overflowing with people. Vicky's the oldest in her family, and she had two younger sisters that were born deaf. And she had a third sister that could hear. But you know, in an Italian family, it's not complete until you have a boy. Okay? So finally they have a boy, and they're happy.
Maybe a year later, sometime later, they found out that he too was dead. So Vicky comes home from school. Her mother was very devoted to Jesus, and she had a statue of the infant Christ in her bedroom. And her Vicky's mother was a gentle spirit. And Vicky comes home, and she hears her mother yelling in the bedroom. I don't know how old you were, you weren't that old. She kicks it out the door. And there's the infant Christ. And her mother takes her hand, knocks the head off the statue of Jesus, and goes flying. And she turns around, she looks at Vicky, and Vicky's eyes are like saucers. And Vicky's mother said, "It's okay to be angry at God. He can take it." So the point is that we have to have that transparency, that honesty before God in order for that communion to take place. And this wonderful woman at the well had the courage to be honest and to ask tough questions. That completed the loop, that created the intimacy that was needed. So, in all of that, I actually believe she started to feel that living water. She started to experience. Her soul began to open up. Her heart began to open up. Her spirit was moved. Grace was flowing. She was in the flow of divine consciousness. Now, then Jesus brings up something. He said, "Listen." I'm going to paraphrase that. He said, "You got some knots in your life. There's some areas of dysfunction. You've been married 5 times, and the guy you're with, you're not even married to now. I want you to understand what he's doing. He's not shaming her. He's not trying to make her feel guilty. He's not telling her she's unworthy. I want you to see the process that unfolds in the spiritual life. It always begins with grace. It always begins with unconditional love. It always begins with God accepting us exactly who we are. But because God loves us so much, God wants that living water to be a perpetual thing, a constant thing. And if there are pockets in our life that are disordered, if there are pockets in our life that are dysfunctional, God loves us enough sooner or later in one way or another to bring it to our attention, to bring it to our consciousness so that it won't block that water from flowing. See, whatever is hid in our unconscious, whatever is like a shadow lurking in our psyche, it will short circuit our spiritual life and our potential for joy and healing all the time. It has to be brought out into the light of consciousness, into the light of love, so that the living water can flow through it and purify it. That's what Jesus is doing. Those of you that are involved in 12-step programs, that's the essence of the 4th and 5th step. You do that fiercely moral, honest inventory, and then you share it with another person. Not to be shamed, but so that the light can come into the darkness and clean it away. In a perfect world, that's the whole understanding of confession in the Catholic and Orthodox churches. We just want to bring light into the pockets of darkness, not to be shamed, so that you can be healed. So let me make this very practical. There should be at least one person in our life. It could be a therapist, it could be a spiritual director, it could be a spouse, it could be a spiritual friend, that we bear all to, that we share everything with. If we can't share everything with a human being, then we're hiding something from God. What's true below is true above. And this wonderful woman had the courage to walk through that with Jesus because she knew he loved her. Established that. Now let me go to the end of the story because it's beautiful. And then I'm going to close with the story. So she gets this living water. The light comes into her darkness. And she goes off to her townspeople. Who, again, she was even an outsider to them. Because she was an adulteress. She goes to her townspeople. And she says, "You've got to come hear this guy. You've got to come hear him. He's phenomenal." And she brings them back to Jesus. I want you to see the importance of this. The first Jesus ambassador, the first minister of the gospel, is not a man, not even a Jew. It's an outsider. It's a woman. It's a Samaritan. Jesus turned the whole social norms of his time upside down. Jesus doesn't see male or female. He doesn't see Jew or Gentile. God doesn't see male or female. God doesn't see Jew or Gentile. Alcoholic or non-alcoholic, gay or straight. God just sees his or her children. And wherever there's an opening, the water flows. This woman was given back her dignity. She was given a mission. She was given a purpose. Her life was no longer about her. Her life was about something bigger. And think about that. That's when we are freest. That's when we are happiest. When we are serving something other than ourselves. Most of you know I have that Franciscan mentor, Richard Bullock. I remember one time, very poignantly, he said to me, he said, "Craig, do you want to be happy and free?" Of course, I raised my hand and I said, yes. He said, "Then you have to realize that your life is not about you. It's about something much bigger than you. And to the degree that you serve something bigger than you, you will be free and happy and liberated." I want to throw one little footnote and then I'll close with this. One of the pieces of conversation between them is, she says, Jesus says, "I'm going to give you living water," and she asks him another question, and he said, "If you just knew who was talking to you right now, you would ask for living water, and which you would never thirst." Now, Yogananda has a very interesting interpretation of that. What Yogananda says, and I believe Yogananda was, that Jesus was her guru in a previous life. That she had fallen from a state of consciousness, and she was lost. And this is the sweet and beautiful part. Yogananda said that Jesus set it up. He knew exactly what he was doing by going through Samaria. He knew exactly what he was doing. He sent his disciples away to go buy food so he would be alone with her. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was coming for his lost sheep. He was coming for his beloved disciple. And saying, "Listen, I know you're lost, but this isn't our first pony ride. I love you. I'm calling you back. And what I want to say to all of you, this isn't your first pony ride. This is your first spiritual gig. You're being called back by your teacher, your guru, whoever that is, by God. You're loved. You're known. You're understood. Every tear you've ever shed has been counted. Every prayer has been heard and recorded. You're here tonight because God and Guru remember you